I'm going to shock you with some stories in a moment. We share this planet with animals. Many are domesticated, and many we have made our companions. Dogs, cats, birds, potbelly pigs, chimpanzees, horses, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of them. Our pets are precious to us. They become parts of our lives, of our families, and we love them. But then there are the wild animals, and as cute as some of them may seem to be, that's not always the case. They can be a real danger to us. In fact, some have caused so much havoc among humans, killed so many people, taken so many lives, that I think it's noteworthy to talk about them today. Here are a few records that will utterly shock you. Let's look at Bengal tigers, for instance. How many people do you think have died by Bengal tigers in the last, say, 200 years? 1,000? 2,000? Well, the fact is, 373,000 people have been killed by tigers in the last 200 years. If we go back to 500 years, over 1 million people have died and been eaten by tigers. One tiger, known as the Champawat Tiger, killed 436 people and ate them in the early 1900s. The tiger was believed to be preying on human beings because it had lost most of its habitat and lost most of the prey it was used to getting, and so it found that humans were easier to attack. And an autopsy after it had been killed showed that the two canine teeth in the tiger had been broken off. Don't know how it happened, but that caused it to not be able to hold on to its normal prey, and humans seem to be a much easier prey for it. And so it killed 400 people. Then the Tsavo lions in 1898 Kenya. 2 male lions, young lions, killed 35 railroad workers, bringing to a halt the work of the Uganda Railroad Construction Company, and ultimately the whole business of making the railroad in that area. They were killed finally, and their bodies were mounted and put into the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago, where you can go view them if you'd like. Then we have the lions of Njombe in Tanzania. In the 1930s and 40s, over a 15 or 16 year period, this pride of lions, which consisted of 20 or 22 lions, killed 1,500 people. Can you imagine? Then we have the leopard of Panar. Panar is a region in India, and this leopard was responsible for killing 400 people in the early 20th century. Next is the beast of Gévaudan in France. This was a little bit different of a case because this was way back in the 1700s, 1764 to 1767. This creature had killed 100 people and eaten them. And it turned out to be a wolf, but they were so superstitious in those days that they claimed it was some kind of supernatural beast like a werewolf or what have you. But it was killed and it was a wolf. And then we have the unique story of the Crocodiles of Ramree Island. Off the coast of Burma in 1945, it's reported that as the Allies took over the island, 900 fleeing Japanese soldiers were killed and eaten by crocodiles in the swamps as they escaped. In 1968, the Guinness Book of World Records recognized that as a record, but it retracted that in 2017 based on military records. None of the military records on either side, Japanese or American, showed that had actually happened. And common sense, I used to handle crocodiles and gators, common sense tells you that you're not going to find enough crocodiles in one area to kill 900 people. Here's the accepted facts. This is what really happened. 1,000 Japanese fled into the swamp. 500 made it out alive. Most of them were killed by machine gun fire as they retreated. Many were drowned. And perhaps 20 or 30 of them were actually taken by crocodiles that live in that area. And that's the truth. Next is sharks. It may surprise you to learn that only 10 people globally are killed each year by sharks. Now, I would have thought it was much more because you see headlines all the time if somebody's attacked by a shark here, by there, someone's killed. But it's only 10 people, and that's very fortunate. I'm happy for that. But I didn't want to skip the horrendous event that was brought out in the movie Jaws, the USS Indianapolis, which was sailing in the Pacific in 1945. A Japanese submarine sunk it. And because they were on a secret mission that had to do with the atomic bomb, there were no radio transmissions. Nobody knew exactly where they were, and they didn't know that they had sunk. 1,195 sailors went into the water, and only 316 survived. Now, all of those didn't die from sharks, though most of them did. Some died from the wounds they received in the explosion, some died from exposure, some drowned. But it was a horrendous, horrendous event. And now to the number one killer of human beings, What do you think that is? It's the mosquito. There are over 3,600 varieties of mosquitoes. Not all are dangerous. Not all bite. Only the females bite, but there are a lot of dangerous mosquitoes. They've been responsible for the dengue fever, the West Nile fever, Zika, malaria, and a host of other diseases that they carry. They're responsible for over 1 million people dying every single year. 1 million people. Next, we move on to an interesting topic most people find interesting, venomous snakes. Most people, I handle a lot of snakes. I don't mind. I'm a boy. I grew up that way. But most people consider every snake to be venomous. Well, there are about 4,000 species of snakes in the world, and less than 1% of them are venomous. About 300 of them. That doesn't change the fact that people get bit and die from them. Approximately 5.5 million people are envenomated every year around the world, and 130,000 of them die. 400,000 suffer some kind of amputation. Usually it's a finger, where they got bit by a pygmy rattler or something and they lost that finger. And the reason they lose and they die so readily in other countries is because they don't have readily available anti-venom. Like in India, the #1 country, Africa, the #2, and Indonesia, the #3. There's so many remote areas that they just can't get anti-venom to help the people that are bit. In the United States, we don't have that problem. We have about 8,000 people envenomated in our country every year, and only about 8 of them die. I don't know what that percentage is, but that's pretty low. And that's because anti-venom is available to them. And in fact, there's a new synthetic anti-venom called Crofab that is available. It works on pit vipers. They don't work on elaphids like cobras and coral snakes, but it works on pit vipers venom. And it's about 15% of the cost of normal venom. So it's a very attractive thing for people to get. But we have access to that venom and anti-venom, and so people just don't die readily in our country. Now, I told you some of these stories were going to be kind of shocking, and I'm sure some of that did shock you. But hopefully, my point is, maybe it'll cause you to be a little more cautious when you're out in the wild, in the woods, in the desert, in the ocean. There are dangers out there, dangerous animals, so be careful and don't risk it.